Okay, so the first article I'm going to talk about is the CEC supporting equity in charter schools. The CEC wants the Trump administration to recognize that the academic success of all children should be a priority. Their letter was asking for three different things, one of them being access, meaning students with disabilities must be allowed access into any charter school. And the second request was quality through accountability, meaning the schools must be driven by standards and development needs to be prioritized. And the last thing they asked was involving civil rights, which was basically saying that all students' rights should be protected in any educational setting. I think it's great that the CEC wrote this letter to the Trump administration because it gives a voice to the students with disabilities and special needs and acknowledges that they should have the same rights as any other individual. This will impact both the educator and the students. Students and parents should have a right to choose where they should be educated, whether that's in a charter school, a public school, or a private school. And wherever they choose to go, their rights will be protected and all of their needs will be accommodated for. All right, so the next article I'm going to talk about is about the CEC strongly opposing the Medicaid provisions. So this article talked about the American Health Care Act being passed, and because of this being passed, healthcare funding will be slashed, which will directly affect children with disabilities and children in poverty. Many programs rely on Medicaid to ensure children have access to a free, appropriate public education. And due to the slash on healthcare funding, schools will not have the ability to provide special education and early intervention services in which the students need. As an educator, I think this is absolutely crazy and absurd. Our students are going to suffer greatly because they are not going to have access to any of the services that they need in order to be successful in their future lives. It's just not right. Our special education students shouldn't have to be put on the back burner and endure the loss of these services. I am glad that the CSE took a strong stance against this, and I hope that the government listens, or else our schools will be in major trouble. The last article I'm going to talk about is the Supreme Court case, Andrew F. v. Douglas. In this case, the question being asked was how much of an educational benefit does an IEP have to provide? The right to FAPE means that students can get special education and related services through an IEP, but IDEA never spells out what appropriate means. This specific case involved a boy named Drew who has autism and therefore has an IEP. Drew was making very little progress towards his goals, and his parents said it was because the school didn't give him support for his behavior issues. Drew's parents ended up pulling him from the public school and placing him in a private school setting which solely focused on autism. Drew's parents claim that he only got a minor benefit from his IEP, and the school said otherwise and claimed that Drew did make progress and received enough benefit on his IEP. The schools are worried that raising the standard of the IEP will raise costs, but if the court rules in favor of Drew, many kids with learning and attention issues may be able to get better services. As an educator, you should want the best for your students and provide them with anything they need to be successful. We instill in our students to strive to be the best they can be, and yet some schools aren't setting this bar high enough for these students and are just settling for them to be a Chevrolet, which is absolutely ridiculous. As a future special special educator, I plan on working very hard to create reasonable and reachable goals for my students so that they can ultimately reach their utmost potential.